Thank you all so much for having me. And thank you, George. Like George said, my name is Kevin Benedicto, and I'm a member of the San Francisco Police Commission. Though I'm speaking here in my individual capacity and not on behalf of the commission. And I'm here to talk about some of the cons of Prop E. You might have seen a lot of ads about it, but I'm here to tell you why myself, as well as a number of my fellow commissioners, believe that Prop E would make us less safe, is a bad way to make policy, is unnecessary, and sets a bad precedent. So I'm going to first start with that it's a poor way to make policy and isn't about public safety. In 2018, which was the last time a police policy measure was put on the ballot, then a candidate for mayor, London Breed, remarked, "I have concerns about taking these types of policy matters to the ballot box." This same position in 2018 was shared by Police Chief Bill Scott, who said at the same 2018 ballot measure that he wrote a letter to the Department of Elections saying it is not a national best practice to promulgate operational policies by voter majority. And he said that a ballot initiative, which sets police policy, is the antithesis of the spirit of the U.S. Department of Justice recommendations. Those were quotes from 2018, and I think they still hold true now. I next want to talk about why the measure in Prop E is unnecessary. The policy suggested by Prop E are either already exist or haven't even been asked for. So I'm going to take a couple of examples. I know it's a complicated policy. One is vehicle pursuits. You might have read that this policy changes SFPD's policy, allowing more vehicle pursuits. We recently, at the commission, asked for an independent review of our vehicle pursuit policy. This review concluded our policy was consistent with 18 of 21 similarly sized police departments. Our policy, contrary to what you might have heard, already allows pursuits for serious crimes. At this hearing, which took place in January, I asked the SFPD if our policy was consistent with the national trends of law enforcement. And both the SFPD's expert and Chief Scott said, yes, our policy is consistent with the trends of national law enforcement. I asked Chief Scott, are there big changes you would like us to make as a commission to the vehicle policy? He said, none that I can think of. Similarly, you might have heard that this policy has a lot of changes to surveillance policies, including the use of drones. At that same January hearing, I asked Chief Scott, have you ever done a budget request for drones that the commission has rejected? And he said no. And in fact, there's already a pilot program underway with our existing checks and balances to allow for drones and license plate reader technology. This is a measure that's about politics and not about public safety. Similarly, you might have heard about too much paperwork being one reason for this ballot measure. In 2021, the department informed us that one of our policies accidentally created too much paperwork. And in 2022, the commission unanimously adopted new measures to reduce this paperwork load. So what you're hearing about in this policy either already exists or haven't been asked for. It's just not a necessary way to do things outside of the checks and balances we already have. I want to talk about how it would also risk making San Franciscans less safe. At the end of the day, what Prop E does is it lowers safeguards and guardrails across the board. It lowers safeguards for officer-involved shootings. It lowers safeguards for dangerous vehicle chases, safeguards for all kinds of oversight. We have serious public safety issues and crime issues in San Francisco, and we need to have serious conversations about solving them, but just lowering our safeguards and guardrails is not the one-size-fits-all solution. We've seen just recently a big scandal at SFPD about a nonprofit spending hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money on lavish parties. I would submit that now we need more accountability and oversight at SFPD and not fewer guardrails and safeguards. I'm almost done, and I'm happy to answer questions. I have two more points. One is that this sets a bad precedent. Prop E would permanently change and weaken the independent oversight that San Francisco voters have put in place over decades in important areas like government surveillance and police accountability. During the Trump administration, we saw a lot of fights between a hostile federal government and a San Francisco city government around surveillance, and permanently weakening these guardrails when there's a prospect of another Trump presidency, I think is dangerous to lower safeguards and cut corners. It's the opposite of what we need, which is the independent oversight over the department. And the last thing I'll say is don't just listen to me. It's a broad coalition that opposes Proposition E. You have traditional civil liberties and progressive groups like the ACLU and the Electronic Frontier Foundation. You have nonpartisan groups that don't usually get involved in politics in this way, like the Bar Association of San Francisco, the League of Women Voters, the San Francisco Bike Coalition. You have political organizations like the San Francisco Democratic Party and the Service Employees International Union. And 7 current and former police commissioners have signed a ballot argument about how this is a dangerous policy. Just today, the San Francisco Chronicle urged a vote on no, and I thought they said something they put it very well, as the Chronicle is able to do sometimes, where they said, police say they feel unsupported. If we want to show them otherwise, our legislators can give them the tools they're asking for through existing systems of checks and balances, not this over-the-top measure. And I'll end with another quote from Chief Bill Scott in 2018, when a similar police policy measure was on the ballot. In 2018, Chief Scott said, the responsibility to set and make policy adjustments and the responsibility to manage the operations of the department should rest with the police commission and the chief of police, respectively. And I agreed with Chief Scott in 2018 when he said that, and I still agree with that statement now. And for those reasons, I urge your board to endorse no on E, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, I guess I'll start. Why do you think the mayor went so hard after the police commission? Do you
You know,
feel there was some moment or time where she felt you were in the way of what she wanted to accomplish with the police?
that's a great question, George. I think it's convenient for the mayor to paint a picture of the commission as an obstacle when, like I mentioned, for all of the examples it's actually in here, it's not the case. Over 90% of commission votes are unanimous, and every single policy that the commission passes is written in consultation with SFPD. I think the mayor's in a tight re-election race and wants to uh, paint an enemy and decide to select the commission as an enemy. But if you're looking for real solutions to our real public safety problems, Proposition E isn't the way to get there.
Okay.
Hey, Dave Osgood has a question, George.
Oh, I didn't, I couldn't. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Thank you. I'm inclined to vote against this proposition and encourage others to. However, living downtown, we've got a real problem with sideshows every single weekend and clearly out of control, high-speed groups of motorcyclists using the protected bike lanes, 30, 35 miles an hour with bicyclists, including kids, taking over an entire intersection, doing donuts and so forth. And the police do absolutely nothing about it. You call, it's a 911 valid issue, and you call them, and all they do is say, well, we'll put out an informational notice. Now, I don't think everything has to be addressed with a high-speed chase. So the concern is that the police commission, the police chief, et cetera, don't seem to have any creative alternatives. It's either do all or nothing, and unfortunately that means nothing. This has been going on for years. This organization had the chief at its meeting when he first came here, and he didn't seem at all interested. So I'm inclined to vote against it, but at the same time, I'd sure like to hear when you're going to come up with alternatives. For example, I noticed the CHP will, they sometimes come into town following somebody. They don't do a high-speed pursuit, but they follow them at low speed. And, with a group of bikers, motorcyclists, eventually one of them's going to hit a bus or something. And then if you're following them, you get them. But it doesn't have to be a high-speed chase. So when is the commission going to come up with some solutions to these problems that exist every Saturday and every Sunday? I mean, it's like the drag strip in Modesto around here.
Yeah, that's a great question, Dave. Sideshows are a big concern. The commission regularly asks the chief to for his plan on that, and there's been not enough progress, but some progress. There's now a specialized task force that is set up to try to respond to those, and they've made more arrests in 2023 for sideshows than any prior year. So I'll say that it's not enough progress, but there is some. A couple of other responses to your point is it's not clear that this would even change that, because at the end of the day, how the chief allocates resources and deployment is solely the discretion of the chief. That just because we say in policy you can pursue in more circumstances, the chief is still the head of the department, and so the commission can't change that. And so you might not even see that change. I would even go a step further and say that already some things are underway that could help with that I'll describe, that Prop E might slow down. One is Prop E, as I'm sure you're all familiar since you're asked to endorse these measures all the time, sometimes people come back to you to say, oh, we need a new ballot initiative to undo a prior initiative because we messed something up. And locking in these changes by ballot initiative can prevent us from being nimble. And so, for example, there's one new technology that would help with sideshows. It's called Star Chase. It's basically a launcher that sends a little GPS tracker that's the size of like a golf ball that sticks to a car or motorcycle, and it allows them to track and follow it without a high-speed chase and without having to risk a pursuit. And Prop E doesn't have anything about that particular kind of technology, whereas the commission is already working with the department to implement that. And it's possible that if Prop E were to pass, we'd have to revisit a bunch of our policies in light of this, and would set us back instead of streamlining things. But I think that the sideshow concern is very real, and I also hope the department continues to take more steps and adopts new technologies. I just don't think this is the right way to do it, to sort of reduce safeguards across the board.
And, it's not, you seem to focus only on car sideshows. It's the motorcycle sideshows. And by the way, in New York City, they not only get them, but you know what they do? They bulldoze their motorcycles. The NYPD has a bulldozer, and they put on a show. They line up a bunch of these knuckleheads' motorcycles, and they run over them. So maybe you need to call the NYPD and see what they do.
Honestly, that's a tremendous idea. We will regularly have experts from other jurisdictions testify before the commission. I will ask our commission president to see, and our staff to reach out to someone from the NYPD. And if we do have that hearing, I'd be happy to make sure that you know that it happens, because I think we can always learn from other jurisdictions.
George Lee has a question.
Okay, yeah, Lee.
So I just wanted to second what Dave said. I also live around the downtown area, and it's the motorcycle gangs that come along. And actually, I saw them also doing the same sort of thing in the Mission, with lots of people in the streets of doing, I guess it's called wheelies, in which they go up. There are about 30 of them. And they weren't even, I guess, what motorcyclists would really call motorcycles. They were sort of thinner bicycle kinds of things, but doing the same kind of behavior. And one of the things that I understand has come up, and the one you mentioned about attaching something to them also sounds like a good idea, is having drones follow them until they got home, and then you can go there and arrest them.
Yes, absolutely. So drones are a perfect example of the department is already going. San Francisco has an ordinance for when the department wants to have new technology. It's Section 19B of our municipal code. And the department is already undergoing the process to implement drones for pursuits. It's been very popular. There are a number of departments that have done it. It's proven very effective. Prop E has some language on drones, but again, like I noted, at the cost of lowering these safeguards. But we're already underway at adding drones to sort of the portfolio of tools the department can use. I'm really glad you all brought up the motorcycle sideshow specifically. I think a lot of the focus has been on car ones. Commission is in session tomorrow. I'm going to ask the chief tomorrow in open session if their successful strategy on the car sideshows, what their plan is to extend that to the motorcycle ones as well. And I'm going to regularly ask the chief for updates on that, because it's an important issue, and thank you for bringing that to my attention.
No, and I'm the representative from Barbary Coast Neighborhood Association, and it is a central issue that comes up from our members that live in the area around here pretty much every month.
Okay, thank you, Lee. George, I don't see any more hands.
No,
Michael's waiting.
but it is really great that there is a police commission. I'm throwing my 2 cents in to oversee the police. I mean, when you weaken them and you weaken their abilities to look, have oversight over the police, something's wrong if that's a big thing that the mayor's trying to do right now. I just feel it's not productive. That's my final thought on this.
George, you said it more eloquently than I could have. You could have. Thank you so much for saying that.
So, okay. Thanks, you've been great, and I'm sorry, you're a little later on the list and you had to give up your.
I'm happy to do it. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all you do, all from this organization to advocate for smart solutions and for our community. Thank you.
Well, if
Thank
we
you
can
for
ever
coming.
help, please call us, and as neighbors, we will try to disseminate information or whatever,
I will. And George, feel free to share my contact information with the other folks here. If anyone has follow-up questions, either on Prop E or just want to be kept in the loop, as now I'm aware of these motorcycle sideshows. I'm gonna if we have a hearing or have the NYPD come up, so please feel free to share my contact information, George.
Okay, thank you very much.